Hi everyone, this is Shauna with New to the Country Life, back with another video. And this one we're going to pull the big chess sets. And we're going to be pouring two different types of chess sets. I can leave you links to where I bought them both. I got them both off Etsy. And I'll leave the links in the descriptions for both molds. And we're going to refer to them as pink and clear. So we have, this is one pink set, this is a second pink set, and then I have this other type, which is a different type of mold. It makes a little bit different looking set. We're going to go through both of them. The first thing I'm going to do is mix my resin. Again, I use KS resin, and we're going to mix 8 ounces of it. So we start with 4 ounces of the actual resin, and this is the liquid Art Ultra UV epoxy. I'll leave their link in the description, as well as a discount code if you decide to order that from them. And then we're going to add 4 ounces of the hardener. It's a 1-to-1 mix. And we're going to stir this until we see that it's perfectly clear. It will get bubbles in it. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you how I take care of those. Basically the same as when we're pouring any other flat mold. We're going to pop the bubbles on top using alcohol this time. I don't use flame with these molds, but I'm going to show you with a little alcohol spritz bottle how you can get rid of the bubbles that come to the surface. And then we're going to do a pressure pot this time. What the pressure pot does is it will get rid of the micro bubbles that are in the mold, in the epoxy, and give you a nice clear piece. What it won't do is if you have overhangs in your mold and a bubble is in there, it will not get that out because the bubble has nowhere to go. And basically what the pressure pot does is it's 50 pounds of pressure, and it's with a compressor, and it pushes so hard on the bubbles that it makes them microscopic so that you can't see them. But if you have a bigger bubble that's stuck in an overhang in the mold, like say the horse's head, it pours it upside down. So if there's a bubble stuck in that like nose piece or something like that, it will not get it out because it has nowhere for it to go. So I'll show you how to make sure that by doing a little bit of squeezing on the mold, we get air bubbles out and we make sure that the mold is completely full of resin. This set, the customer wants black and wants a light gray marbled look to the chessboard. And I'll do a video on the chessboard too. But right now we're going to pour the pieces to match that. So one side is going to be done with solid, I'm going to use black mica so it has a little bit of shimmer to it. And I'm going to use some silver metallic and white alcohol inks to create the marble effect in the pieces. So just finishing mixing this, we mix it till it's completely clear and you can't see any tails. We're just, where it's discolored. Rubbing the bottom, making sure to do the sides, cleaning off my stick often. Just going around the whole thing and making sure that I've got all of that mixed really well. Failure to mix it really well is why your pieces stay rubbery and don't harden. That, and if your temperature is off, that will cause that as well. So I'm going to divide this into 3 different cups. We're going to do solid black first. And I have about 45 minutes of work time where this is still able to be used. With these, I do like it to be a little more watery, so I try to work faster. Our mica powder is from Arteza, and its color is noir, I think is how you say it. It's basically really black. And I'm going to put quite a bit in there because I want to make sure that it's nice and black. And I gently just start pushing that down into the resin and stirring it, trying to get it all wet so it doesn't puff up and blow back in my face. You should definitely wear gloves when you're using resin, and it's recommended to wear a respirator even with low VOC. I never wear a respirator because I just can't stand that feeling. But I'm just letting you know that you should. It's recommended that you do. We're going to stir that all up. That's a nice shimmery black. And when we pour these molds, I store them on a tray. And I have it, I store them face down so that, you know, dust or nothing will get into them. So I start by lining them up. I do it by size because it just makes it easier to pour them that way. I'm going to take them off my tray and put them on my wax paper so that if anything spills, it's not going to ruin my tray. And I just kind of line them up like that so that I can just go right down the line. Where I bought my molds is the only place I found that you can buy these as a complete set. Usually they have the larger pieces, one of each, and then one pawn, and that makes for a long time, and trying to match colors and stuff kind of stinks. So I prefer to buy from this lady that I get these molds from because I can buy an entire set. So we start by filling. I don't fill all the way to the top at first because I'm going to do some pinching of the mold to get bubbles out of the bottom, and I want to have room for that to have somewhere to go. So we'll just partially fill all of them. And I kind of go kind of fast because, like I said, I like working with this when it's still more watery, since we're trying to fill areas that can get bubbles in them. And it's easier to squish that around in there and make sure all the bubbles are out if it's more liquidy. If your resin is too thick, you can always set it in hot water and warm it up before you mix it. And that'll give you a more, they call it viscous, a more viscous solution that you can work with easier. Okay, so what I do is I take the mold and I squeeze from the bottom, and I just work it around to begin with to make sure that that resin's all down in there. And then what I do is I squeeze from the bottom. See how that bubble just popped up? And I hold it there, and I begin filling slowly. And as it starts to fill, I slowly release my grip on it, and it pulls that back down inside there. And then I fill it about that full, and then I go on to the next one. And I just repeat the process each time. You can see how bubbles come out toward the top. There's a bubble there. And now if I was just to let go of that and bring it back down, that bubble goes right back inside. It didn't go away. So we're going to just squeeze and then hold and slowly pour, letting go slowly. And then that way it's pulling the resin back down in there instead of bubbles. It makes sure everything's full that way. That bubble will pop, and then I'm just slowly letting go, so it's sucking resin back down into where that air hole was. when I'm doing a solid color, this is my technique. The next one, we're going to do a marbled color. And so I'll kind of show you how I do that as well. And little bubbles will work their way to the top as this is sitting and we're getting ready to put them in the pressure pot. So before they go in the pressure pot, I'll show you how to get rid of the bubbles on the bottom to make sure when they come out you have a nice clean piece. There's that big bubble I watch for. And I'm going to pause this, finish this, and I'll come back when they're all done and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, we've got them all poured. I have a little bit extra, and I always keep molds around for my extra resin. This one is a napkin ring holder, and I just pour it in layers with any extra resin, and then it gives me a cool effect on my napkin ring holders, and it's a way to use the resin where you're not wasting it. And I know I talk about that in every video so far, and that's because resin's expensive and I don't want to waste any of it. So that's what we do with our extra resin. And then we use isopropyl alcohol on these molds, and I just put it in a little spritz bottle that I got at the dollar store. And if you just spritz the top of them, you'll notice all the bubbles pop. So if you're not comfortable using fire to do this, which I don't do on the chest pieces, I do them on flat things, that's how you get rid of bubbles. I also use chopsticks often. The resin wipes off of them really nice. So if I have any bigger bubbles that the isopropyl alcohol did not pop, I just kind of pop them. And then I'm going to move you a little bit so that you can see how I put them in a pressure pot. I'm going to put a link to the pressure pot. It's somebody else's video, but it's what we used to build our pressure pot, and I'm not going to remake the video because he did an excellent job telling you where to get the parts and how to do it and everything. So I don't feel the need to really remake that video. I'm just going to share his with you. So basically what a pressure pot is, it's a paint pot, and it's not meant for this application, but with a few adjustments you can make it work for this. I got the pot at Harbor Freight, and most of the parts there, the rest of the parts came from Home Depot, and his video will tell you about that. So we built a, I don't know if you can see down there, we built a wooden bottom because the pot's not flat on the bottom, and I put wax paper on it so that if anything spills during the process, it's not gonna, you know, ruin the inside of the pressure pot. And I just start putting these in around, and we're going to do 2 layers. So we cut these nice little wedges that fit in here to put our second layer on. And I can fit 2 full sets of these in here. If you do it, you know, space them correctly, you can get quite a bit in the pressure pot. So we just start going around. And hopefully you can see all this on the camera. You just want to make sure that your pressure pot's level. We cut a hole in our table, and it sits down in the table so that I don't have to reach over the pot to get stuff in it. It just makes it a lot more convenient and easy for me. And I start by lining the outside walls of the pot. My molds are touching, but they're not pressing on each other, because if they're pressing on each other, your mold shape will be deformed. And when that happens, your pieces come out shaped improperly. So that's just something to be aware of. It's okay if they touch, but don't have them pressing against each other where it changes the shape of the mold. I'll show you down in here in just a second. So you can see I lined the inside of the pressure pot with everything. And then I'm going to bring you back down here so we can pour the second set. Trying to get my camera steady. Just hang out with me for a second. Okay, so now we're ready to pour the second color. And again, I'm just going to turn my molds upside down, or right side up, because I store them upside down. And the second set, we're going to use 2 different colors of alcohol ink. And I'm going to kind of show you how to swirl them. So we're going to start by mixing our colors. We already have our resin mixed. Okay, so we're going to grab 2 different cups and we're going to split the rest of this resin between the 2 cups. And I'm going to put a little bit of white in, but I mostly want the silver to show, so I'm going to mix more silver color than I am the white. Okay, with the white and the silver, black as well, you have to really mix the alcohol ink good because it settles, the color settles in it. Unlike the other alcohol inks, you should probably shake all of them, but it's really important to do the metallic ones and the white and the black. So I'm going to just start by putting some drops in, and then we'll mix it and see how good it looks. When you're mixing color in, you want to keep it less than 5% by volume. Otherwise, it will inhibit your drying time. So we're just getting a nice shimmery metallic color. And I like that. That's nice. Okay. And with this one, we're going to do some white in it. And I buy white in big bottles and then transfer it into these small bottles because I use so much white and so much black. I buy those in much bigger bottles. So the white can be translucent if you don't add enough. I feel like I want that whiter, so I'm going to just add a little bit more just to be sure that it's completely white. So doing a full set, pouring both sides of the set, takes about 8 ounces of resin. Just to give you an idea for this pink set. Well, it's for both sets actually. It takes about 8 ounces to do the full thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by pouring a tiny bit of white in each one. I don't want to fill them too full because we're going to do some color mixing here. But I need to get some in there to start with so that I can work out those bubbles in the bases of them. And I don't want white to be the predominant color in them. I want the silver. So we're just going to do a little white in each one to start with. You can do this with any colors. You can do it with mica, you can do it with alcohol ink, you can do it with glitter. It's all the same technique. It's just deciding, you know, what pattern you're going for here. Okay, so I'm going to just start by rolling this around in there. I'm going to do some squeezing, and it's not as full as it was with the other one, so you're not going to get, you know, bubbles coming out. All I'm trying to do is get that to coat the inside of that mold, so that we have less likely to get a bubble where we don't want it. I'm just squeezing it around. I'm just going to do that real quick to all of them. We'll do more squeezing in a second, but this is just our preliminary, trying to get it moved around in there. These littler ones have just the little top on them. So basically you're just trying to get it down in there, because sometimes the air bubble prevents it from going all the way, like that one just went down. You can see I didn't put that much in, but it's stuck here. So by squeezing it, watch what happens. It goes back down into the top that way, so that it's not, there's no air bubble that way. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our silver, we're going to pour partially full. We're going to leave a little room at the top again. I always put wax paper down on my work surface so that if I'm messy dripping doing this, you just throw it away. It's easy to clean up that way. We're going to end up adding some more white, but I'm going to show you. Okay, now we're going to do our squeeze technique and work that bubble up. And we're going to take our white and add a little white to that. And we're not adding much because we want it to mostly be gray or silver. So we're going to add a little bit. As we let go of it, it sucks some of that down in there. So that's going to cause it to make like a swirly effect, so that the two colors are mixed together nicely. So we're just going to squeeze, add a little white. This is making sure that there's no bubbles anywhere there's not supposed to be. And I'm going to finish that off, but before I do, I'm going to show you, I like to use chopsticks because they have kind of a blunt end and you're not going to ruin your mold. I'm going to go down in there and just kind of push down a little bit, and all that's doing is swirling those two colors together. And then I just kind of wipe it off. But see how the colors kind of swirl? And I'm not going to touch it any more than that because I want it to just set like that, and it creates a marble effect. So I just kind of up and down a couple times, wipe it off on the edge of the mold, and then just set it back down. This is also helping to make sure that there's no bubbles down in there. Okay, so I'm going to finish these off and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I've got these all done. We're going to just top them off so they have a silver base. So we're just going to fill them up to the top. And then we'll spray them with the alcohol to get rid of the little bubbles and get them into the pressure pot. I fill these as full as I can because sometimes they settle a little bit and sometimes they run off a little bit in there. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's better to have a little more in there than not enough, because you'll either have to top it off and redo it, or you have to do sanding on a lot of it and you know, to make the bottoms flat. And I try to avoid having to do that because it takes a lot of time, and these already are pretty time consuming to do. Okay, so we're ready to put these in the pressure pot next. I'm going to move you back again so you can watch that process. Hopefully you can see in there. Having to balance my camera, sorry. And we just start going around the edges to fill in the center now. It's a little bit of a game. It's like playing Tetris, figuring out where all the pieces go to get a full set in here, but it works. The nice thing about when it's full is if the table gets bumped or anything happens before these set up, because they are in there fairly tight, they don't fall over that way. So that's always a good thing. And the bottom takes a little bit less pieces than the top usually because of the blocks that are in here for the second layer. Take up space if that, pieces could be taking up if I wasn't doing it in 2 layers. But usually I have to put 1 or 2 pieces on the top layer. And since those blocks don't go on the second layer, they only go on this bottom layer, we usually have plenty of room. So you can see I have 2 pieces left over. This is what the inside of the pressure pot looks like right now. And then I'm going to take my round that we made. If the camera will sit there, hang on. So we just have another round. And there's a hole in the center so you can put your finger in. Set it down on there. Piece of wax paper to prevent it from dripping anywhere, and then we put these other ones on there. Before I do that, I just realized I forgot to spray it with alcohol to get rid of the bubbles. So you can just spritz them. Get rid of any big bubbles that may stay. Most of the bubbles would go away with the pressure pot anyway, but I just like to do it to make sure I have a clean bottom on them. And we just start setting the second layer. And like I said, these blocks aren't in there, so you can actually fit more pieces in the top that way. Okay, so for our next set, these guys are wobbly. And they're not, I love the pieces. I hate the molds. Just full disclosure on that, but I do love the pieces. They're a little bit bulkier pieces, and they just look really nice. So, again, I'm trying to get my camera to sit right, so hold on. Okay. So these ones, when you go to demold them, you have to like turn them inside out, and I'll do a mold on that when I take these apart. They're not as easy to get out as the pink molds. The pink molds are way easier to get out. And as far as standing up, they have these little crosses on the bottom, and that's all they have. So that I use them sitting next to each other. They're not very stable. And I've not had good luck with pouring these and not putting them in the pressure pot. If they don't go in the pressure pot, they get bubbles everywhere. So that's like almost a necessity to put them in a pressure pot, this set of mold. I do love the pieces though, like I said. They're a bulkier piece and they're a pretty piece. So, I guess you have to give and take. So we're going to get these set up. And the next set I'm pouring is to match a board that's already done. So I'm going to show you the board. Our board is a pink glitter and white marble checker. The white marble is done with clear resin and white alcohol ink, and then the pink was done with just clear and the pink glitter in it, and it was lightly put in, so it's not real heavy on the chessboard. I am going to make it heavier on the pieces though, because glitter settles. And if I were to not do that, the piece would end up looking like half clear, half glitter. But I want it to be a little better than that. So we're going to mix our glitter a little heavier in there. So let's get our resin mixed up. Again, I'll leave links for all this stuff I use and the molds and everything in the description. And I bought this set off Etsy, and I had actually written a review, and I need to go rewrite it for them, because after I poured it the first time, my comment was, I don't know how those molds are going to hold up to multiple pourings because of the fact that they're hard to get stuff out of, and you have to turn them inside out to do that. But I've actually poured them several times now, and the more I pour them, the easier they're getting to take out. So to be fair, I want to go fix my review of those molds. Both of them are kind of expensive sets, and I've paid anywhere between $60 and $100 for a set of these. And I have several sets. This particular kind, I bought one full set. The pink ones, I think I have about 6 full sets of those now, because I do a lot of chessboards. And I can put 2 full sets in the pressure pot at once. So I leave them in the pressure pot overnight. So like it's around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll leave them in overnight, and I'll take them out tomorrow morning. And if they're still a little soft, I'll just let them sit. If they're set up enough, I can get them out of the molds without, you know, bending anything the wrong way or doing any damage to them. I'll go ahead and pull them out so that I can get another set going right away. Because I have lots of chess orders, and that's the only way I can keep up, is having lots of boards and lots of molds to pour. So we have it clear. I'm not seeing any trails. I've scraped the bottom. I've scraped my stick off. Go all around the edges. Make sure it's good everywhere. One last time. Let's grab a couple of cups. We'll do our glitter side first, I think. So we're going to pour this about there. And that's right about 4 ounces. You can see there's slightly more than 4 ounces in my cup. But with glitter, that adds bulk to it. So that'll add some volume to it as well. And I'm going to, like I said, go pretty heavy on the glitter, because glitter does settle. And I want it to be most of the piece in glitter. I don't care if the bottoms are clear. That's not going to be a problem. And I'm just using my, I use popsicle sticks, and I do use these bamboo chopsticks quite a bit. They don't seem to absorb stuff like everything else the popsicle sticks do, or other sticks. And it is easy to clean up. It just literally wipes right off the bamboo. Stuff doesn't seem to stick to it very bad. I use these shop rags, and I just wipe it off. And see, we're good to go again. Okay, so with this set, we do a similar thing. Because these are so much harder to keep standing up, I don't want to handle them that often. I want to get them done and set in the pressure pot. So I kind of do it all in one shot if I'm doing something like this where I'm pouring the glitter. So the nice thing about these, I'll show you, you can see here. So see how you can see the glitter clearly here, but here looks like the mold. It should look like that if there's no bubbles in it. So what I do, see there's a bubble here. You can see the mold instead of the glitter. So what I do is I just keep squeezing until I make sure that everywhere is covered in glitter. How you can see all around there is completely full of pink, not clear. And then I go ahead and start topping the mold off. And if I see that I'm getting bubbles again, I do what I did with the other set where I squeeze it and then pour it and let it suck down in there. So I top this one all the way to the top. You see a bubble working its way out there. We can either, get rid of that now with alcohol, or we can put it in the pressure pot. So I'm going to go ahead and start setting these directly in the pressure pot so that I don't have to worry about trying to hold them or balance them on the table. These were not designed very well as far as to sit up and just cure that way. They don't work very well. I've got it squeezed all out, all the bubbles, and now I'm pouring and letting go slowly, and it just sucks that back down in there so that I know there's no voids in there. Take it to the end, and then we're going to start just lining the edge of the top of the pot, and I'll show you the pot when it's done so you can see what I did. Occasionally I need to put a block in there on its side to hold them over so they don't spill like just happened. So I'm just going to top that off again. We're going to go back in and we're going to put a block in front of it so that it keeps it from falling over, and then we'll work around that block, and if we need to remove it we can, but at least it holds them upright in place until the other pieces are holding it that way. And I'm just going to clean a little of that up with my finger so it doesn't drip down to the second layer and get in any of my pieces on the bottom that I don't want it. That's why I wear gloves, because I can't keep from getting resin all over myself. I'm always covering myself in it. So you see the technique. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the camera. I'll come back when I have these ones done, and we'll move on to the next color. Okay, we're back. I have those all in the pressure pot. Looks like that. And we're going to get the other set done and put in there, and then from there we will block it if we need to make sure nothing falls over while the pressurization is going on. This part of the set is going to be white and kind of clear mixed. So what I'm going to do is put the alcohol ink in, but not mix it thoroughly. And I'm still going to go ahead and pour it in a cup because I don't like mixing color in my silicone cups because it's really hard to get out. I prefer to use the disposable cups for mixing color. Okay, so here's our clear, and we're going to put just a few drops of white in, and we're going to only slightly mix it because we want it to have kind of a marbly look to it. And as we pour it, it'll mix more. But that's all we're mixing it. We're not doing very much at all. Cleaning off our stick, getting ready to pour these. Okay, so same process. We're going to pour it in just part way, and we're going to look down in there and make sure that we're seeing it everywhere. And I just want to get it in there. I'm not trying to mix those colors, so just trying to do it a little bit fast. I want to make sure the bubbles are out, but I don't want to mix that so that it's a solid white. That way it'll come out the way I'm hoping it comes out. These two taller ones, the king and the queen, are the two that want to tip over every time. So I usually pour them first, and then I put a block in to hold them up. And sorry, camera falls too. As I block them, I'm trying to make sure that I'm supporting them, not squishing them though, and that the block is supporting the other ones on the other side so they don't fall as well. Okay, so I'm going to pause the camera after this piece and get these poured in there, and then I'll show you the process for turning the pressure pot on. Okay, I have my mess mostly cleaned up. I have everything in the pressure pot. And we're getting ready to put the top on. Okay, that's what everything looks like when it's inside the pressure pot. And you can see I've used the wood blocks to hold things where I want them so they don't fall over when we put the top on. My husband's going to help me here because it's easier with two people. So this is what the top of the pressure pot looks like, and it has screws all around it, and we try to tighten like evenly all the way around, kind of like when you're putting a tire on. And you want it tightened down tight because we're going to go up to about 50-55 pounds of pressure, and you don't want that top to blow off. So that gives you a good view of what it looks like. We have an air compressor that we use, a little Craftsman air compressor, and he's going to hook the fitting to it here, and it's going to get loud. So as soon as it starts getting loud, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and we'll come back when it's at pressure. Okay, so we're up between about 50 to 53 pounds of pressure. We close the valve and unhook it, and it sits here till tomorrow. And another video will follow. I'll unpot them and unmold them for you so that you can see how that process goes.